بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين والصلاة والسلام على رسوله الكريم وعلى آله وأصحابه أجمعين أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله وأشهد أن محمدا عبده ورسوله أما بعد. Last week we began discussion and reading of the book al-Biyut of Shaikh Abdullah bin al-Khawlaani Hafidullah Ta'ala, and we were talking about last week the benefits and the blessings of having homes and houses, and some of the rulings, ahkam and adab in relation to picking a house, where to live, and these kinds of things. We'll continue inshallah ta'ala today from the first issue connected to the topic of building homes, because we stopped last week on the topic of building or choosing. And we said that the home should be spacious enough for the family. Maskan wasi', it should be wasi', spacious enough for the family. And that depends on the person's family. Al-Munawi rahimahullah said, وَيَخْتَلِفُ سَعَتُهُ حِينَئِذٍ بِاخْتِلَافِ الْأَشْخَاص. That spaciousness differs in accordance to the people's ability or people's needs, فَرُبَّ وَاسِعٍ لِرَجُلٍ ضَيِّقٍ عَلَى آخَرٍ. That maybe one house could be spacious for one man and tight and restricted for another. طيب. So this week we'll begin with building tall buildings. So if you go back to the book, it's available in the PDF, whoever wants it. Page 715. If you go to page 15 of the book, al-Biyut, here the Shaykh has the mas'ala about building tall buildings and competing in building it and trying to show off by building it. And here the ulama, they differed. Houses which are big, mansions or whatever you want to call it, is it haram or is it halal to build a mansion or to build a big house, many floors? And this issue goes back to the fact that a house, if it's something of a need, a haja, going above the haja, is it israf? Is that considered israf or is that not israf? And also the second issue, if somebody builds a big house, do they get any reward, thawab, for building, or there's no reward? So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He says in the Quran, تَتَّخِذُونَ مِن سُهُورِهَا قُصُورًا. Here Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala reminding the people before us, Ad and Thamud and these people, that you build these homes. Allah made it easy for you to build these mansions. وَتَنْحِيتُونَ الْجِبَالَ بُيُوتًا. You used to carve out of the mountains homes. فَاذْكُرُوا آلَاءَ اللَّهِ. Remember Allah's bounties upon you. Alamat al-Qurtubi rahimahullah in his tafsir, he brings the mas'ala then, that some of the ulama said from here that it is permissible to build tall buildings because Allah reminds them that He gave them that bounty. فَاذْكُرُوا آلَاءَ اللَّهِ. Remember Allah's bounties and blessings. So if building mansions was haram, Allah wouldn't tell them to remember what Allah gave you. But then He brings more issues and more difference of opinion. So the first group of ulama said it's permissible for Allah remind the people before us of that bounty. And it comes in the hadith, فَإِنَّ اللَّهَ يُحِبُّ أَنْ يَرَى أَثَرَ نِعْمَتِهِ عَلَى عَبْدِهِ. If Allah gives you money and blessings, He loves to see the signs of blessings upon you. Al-Hadith, Hadith Imran Hussein, Hadith Sahih. When Allah gives you money and wealth, He loves to see that bounty on you. The bounty on you means good clothes, good house, good car. If you're rich. If you're not rich, then according to what you have. So they say then somebody who's wealthy, he has money, so he can build a big house. And then Al-Qurtubi rahimahullah, he mentions other views, the other view, and then he brings the opinion about the reward. And he says in there, that bringing this point, that a person, will they be rewarded or not? If it's permissible, then you could say yes, because you're doing something which is a need. But the other group of scholars, they say then, it is not allowed. Because if you build something more than you need, it goes into either israf or tahreem. And they bring some ahadith, some of those ahadith are da'if, but they bring one hadith to show at least there's no reward. Hadith Khabbab radiyallahu ta'ala anhu, where he said, Rasulullah also said this, إِنَّ الرَّجُلَ لَيُؤْجَرُ فِي كُلِّ شَيْءٍ إِلَّا الْبِنَاءِ. A man is rewarded for everything except for building something. Hadith Sahih. It's also in Bukhari and Muslim and others. So here they said إِلَّا الْبِنَاءِ means when you build something of a home, and also we'll see later, you're renovating your home, there's no reward in that. They say just you get no sin. But some of the ulama, they say it doesn't show it's haram. It only shows that there's no reward. Or if you're doing it for a wrong reason. So the Shaykh al-Khawlaani, he brings all these views. If we get to then the summary, what he's trying to bring, he brings the other view, then he brings the qawl of Ibn Muflih rahimahullah. The summary, if building the homes is haram, then the Rasul sallallahu alayhi wasallam wouldn't tell us about reward, no reward. Remember, in the Sharia, if something is haram, it's ithm, sin. So either it's major or minor sin, not reward, no reward. There's no reward for sins. You get punishment. So Ibn Muflih, he writes in Adab al-Shar'iyya, if the hadith that talk about building have no reward is carried to be tahreem, prohibition, which is not the zahir, he says. The zahir is not that. But if it was, then we will not be talking about reward and no reward. We're talking about sin and punishment. He says, Ya'asi, you disobeyed Allah, so it's sin and punishment. There's no point in mentioning reward, no reward, or benefit, no benefit. Hence, it's makruh, dislike to build a house above the need you have, but it's not necessarily haram unless a person, right, is doing this with the intention, a wrong intention, beyond just building a building. Maybe he's trying to show off, maybe he's doing something extra, but by itself, makruh. And that's the summary of the Shaykh Hafidhahullah Ta'ala, that he says makruh. And so the summary, the mas'ala, those who said it is permissible, they said that there's a haja, a need. And number two, when there's something where there's a need and there's no haram in it, an asl in mu'amalat is ibaha, permissibility. Number two, if someone goes up and beyond what is needed, there is some israf, you're going up and beyond this, then it's not haram because the hadith says you get no reward. So therefore, this is makruh, not haram. And the reason why the ulama differ then is that if the hadith says there's no reward or reward, should be carried to be disliked or haram, and what seems to be most correct is that we can't say it's haram except if we have clear evidence, and we don't have a clear evidence. So if somebody builds a house for his family, it's a mansion or a big one, that's permissible. It's permissible. But if it's going above and beyond, adding extra things, at the very least you can say no reward, or it's makruh, it's disliked, but not haram. And we can use also as evidence hadith. Min sa'adat mar'i, from the benefit or happiness of a human being or a person, one of them is maskan wasi', a spacious home. So if we're saying something is haram, which the Prophet said is min sa'adah, doesn't make sense. Happiness, something haram, no. So we need to say that if someone has a big family, or someone has a lot of money, or someone chooses to build it, then that's his business. It's makruh at the least to do that. Better not to, but you can't say it's haram. And then Shaykh Abdullah, Hafidhahullah Ta'ala, he brings a nice benefit. Ibn Muflih Hanbali in Adab al-Shar'iyya, he brings a nice statement to summarize it, because he has the best speech on this topic, and he brings both opinions. If you go back to his book, Adab al-Shar'iyya, you find beautiful speech. His summary, Ibn Muflih, he says, وَعَلَمْ أَنَّ حَالَ رَسُولِ اللَّهِ صَلَى اللَّهُ عَلَيْهِ وَسَلَّمْ أَكْمَلُ الْأَحْوَالِ وَطَرِيقَتُهُ خَيْرُ الطُّرُقِ. Know that the condition and the situation of Rasul sallallahu alaihi wasallam is the best of situations, and his path is the best of paths. And then he says, لِمَا عُلِمَ عَلَيْهِ السَّلَامُ أَنَّ الدُّنْيَا دَارُ صَفَرٍ لَا دَارُ الْإِقَامَةٍ. Since Rasul sallallahu alaihi wasallam, he knew the dunya is the abode of travel, because we're going back to Allah, not the abode of residence. Therefore, he continues that his houses that he built was a housing which is in the middle, not too small that it doesn't benefit, not too big that the insects and the creatures were living there too, not underground as some of the people before used to have, not too tall. He says, بل هي مساكن متوسطة حسنة طيبة الرائحة بعرقه ورائحته صلى الله عليه وسلم وكان يحب التطيب ويتخذه كما سبق في حفظ الصحة من فصول الطب. He said Nabi Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam's houses were the moderate homes with the best of fragrances, for his sweat alayhi salatu salam was the best of fragrance, and he used to perfume it, his homes, as will come later in the chapter of medicine. This summary is the best. You go in the middle. So what you need, not too much, not too less. But as will come in a second, if somebody chooses to build a big home and spend his money on this, to say to them it's haram is something very difficult. Because we live in a time where we know if someone has halal money and he so chooses to use his money in this angle, we're not going to say he's doing israf and he's doing a sin. We have to be careful in these chapters, because even though the asl of israf is haram, it's tahreem, israf is extravagance, it's haram. In this chapter, why do we say israf is not haram? because Nabi Sallallahu told us the person doesn't get any reward. So he moved it from the asr to something else. And this shows you that we can't tell people, if you see a big house, haram alayk, you can't have a home like that. Just because you can't afford it, don't tell some people you can't. Right? Be wary. You're not at his level. He's rich, you're not. That's okay for him. Because israf is based on each person's situation. Sometimes we judge and we project. That's not right. We have to say, this person wealthy, he can afford it, then it's upon him. Because if you can't, then maybe it's israf for you. And for him, it's not. Because we go back to the same hadith I mentioned, hadith Imran Hussein. فإن الله يحب أن يرى أثر نعمته على عبده. Allah loves that He sees the sign of His bounty upon a person when He's given to it. And this came in the context of a Sahabi who had a lot of camels, a lot of sheep, a lot of things, and he's wearing very, very tattered clothing. Nabi Sallallahu asked him, do you have wealth? He said, yes. He said, you have camels? Yes. Why are you dressed like this then? Your situation, you have to dress better. And we took it in the Manzuma Adab Sughra before, that everybody's situation would predict if somebody is doing israf or not. So the summary of the Shaykh, he says then, in this case, it's makruh if it's above the haja, otherwise it's still permissible, and a person cannot make haram when Allah made halal. And this was also the conclusion of more than one scholar, like Ibn Hazm as well, as he also says the same thing, his Maratib al-Ijma', he says the same, that the ulama have agreed, al-ittisaa' fi al-makasib al-mabani min hil. The ulama have agreed that expanding the homes and businesses and wealth is permissible إذا أدى جميع حقوق الله قبله. If he does all of what's permissible upon him from Allah, it's mubah. ثم اختلفوا, then they differed من كاره وغير كاره. Then they differed which one is disliked and which is not. It's a beautiful quote to help us. طيب, now that we move from there, and again, I believe most people's dream is to build a big home. So we're not trying to ruin anyone's dream, right? If that's what you wish to do, this is khair. طيب, that's next mas'ala that comes in relation to the building of the homes. Because we're not talking about the homes yet, what's inside of it, we're talking about that which is around it. And also for those choosing homes, avoiding building the washrooms when facing the Qibla. If somebody is constructing his own home, if you were able to build your own home, you would not build the washrooms facing the Qibla. Means either you're facing it or your back is facing it. You would avoid that. And this is for a person who is building his own home. You're designing your dream home. If you're going to rent a space and wherever the washroom is, that's the second issue. Because this mas'ala, most of us don't pay attention to it. If you don't know difference of opinion, someone might tell you, you're facing the wrong way, your washrooms are wrong, you have to change it. And what are you going to tell them? I got to change it? You don't know the house. So we have to find out what's the hukm on this mas'ala, then we can see what to do. طيب, the hadith that comes in the chapter, Nabi sallallahu alaihi wasallam prohibited facing oneself when using the washroom, either, right, any types of use, either using, right, defecating or urinating, facing or turning your back. Though both those are prohibited. Hadith Jabir fi Sahih Sunan Abi Dawud, that's the first hadith, and the hadith of Ibn Umar fi Bukhari. These are two hadith, hadith Ibn Umar and hadith Jabir. These are two hadith coming in the subject. So let's use the hadith Jabir for a second. Hadith number 13, Sahih Sunan Abi Dawud, قال جابر رضي الله عنهما نهى رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم أن نستقبل القبلة ببول فرأيته قبل أن يقبض بعام يستقبلها. Nabi sallallahu alaihi wasallam prohibited us to face the Qibla when urinating, and 1 year before he died, he did so. But the beginning, naha. And we know here this prohibition by itself, just by its alone, it would necessitate tahreem. النهي المطلق يفيد التحريم. We already took that in usul al-fiqh. النهي المطلق means unrestricted prohibition. What does it teach us? Unrestricted prohibition, it means something's prohibited. Nahi by itself, something's prohibited, it means haram. والأمر مطلق, a command which is unrestricted, what does it teach us? Al-wujub. Those who remember usul al-fiqh, we have to bring it back, because these are the things that we study for a reason. So this hadith says, Naha Rasul sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Did he say why? Did he say when? Did he say how? No. إذا النهي مطلق يفيد التحريم. That's awesome. But this issue, the ulama have three more opinions, three issues, three different opinions or more. And the reason why they differed, because they didn't believe that nahi here is actually tahreem. Some of them said it's tahrim, some say it's karaha, disliked, some said it's ibaha, permissible, some they said it's haram to face it, and halal to turn your back to it. So at the end, all of these views impact how we are using the washroom. Again, most of us, we never think about it, we just go in the washroom, right? So the issue, you should ask, is it this outside or in the building? Same another tafriq, as sahra versus inside the homes or inside the buildings. The khulasa of this hadith or this mas'ala is it's disliked or haram depending on difference. So when you're building a home, avoid it. If you can control it, you wouldn't do that. Means if I'm going to build a house, I'm going to find out where the qibla is and I'm going to turn the washrooms away from the qibla, facing it or my back facing it. And the proof for this, Abu Ayyub al-Ansari radiyallahu anhu said, when we moved to Sham, we found that the washrooms were facing the qibla, so we turned them to the east or to the west. Okay, so Abu Ayyub al-Ansari, he narrates the hadith as well, and when we got to Sham, he applied the hadith. Showing again the practicality of Islam. So this is showing us if you have the ability to choose, you're not going to do that. So that's the first issue. What's the thing you shouldn't do? The best thing, just you put the washroom away from the qibla, either you're facing it or turning your back. So how does that look? He said, Abu Ayyub al-Ansari radiyallahu anhu, that we did it to the east and the west. Why? Anyone knows why? Why did he turn it this way? Where is the qibla in Sham? South. Well, we studied that. What's the hadith of Hurairah? ما بين المشرق والمغرب قبلة. What's between the east and west is qibla. Hadith Tirmidhi, hadith of Hurairah Sahih. That means the people who are living in that region, Medina, Sham, all that they're facing south. So south is the qibla and that's facing the qibla. If you're turning your back, you can't turn to the north. So that's why he moved to the east and west. Us, how about us? Our qibla is where? Between the north and the south. Our qibla is the east. So the washroom will be, or you can't face east or west. So you're going to move the washrooms north and south. Khalas. So remember that. If you're ever going to build a house, you should remember that. It's going to be, the washrooms are going to go north or south. And some of us, you go home, you can even see, maybe your house is already upon the sunnah. Right, maybe. Right, maybe it's already. That's khair, it's khair. But now, if somebody's inside the homes who has no control, what can he do? The khulas of this mas'ala, the ulama differed, but the strongest view in Jumhur, they have this view, is disliked. But the dislike, they differed. Where is the dislike? Is it dislike facing and turning your back, or dislike turning your back, not facing? The most correct view, wallahu a'lam, is disliked in both situations. So not haram, disliked. To face the qibla when you're using the washroom or turn your back. And the reason why, as we'll see, Hadith Jabir said, Nabi sallallahu alaihi wasallam prohibited an nastaqbil qibla bi bawlin, to face the qibla by urinating. But then 1 year before he died, qabla an yuqbada bi'amin, 1 year before he died, yastaqbiluha, he faced it. So what is hadith saying? The Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, before he died 1 year, he used the washroom and he's facing the qibla. Hadith Umar fil Bukhari. He said, one day I went on the roof of Hafsa, his sister Hafsa, radiyallahu anha, and he said I was doing some work on the roof and I saw Nabi sallallahu alaihi wasallam using the washroom facing Sham and his back was towards the qibla. Back. He's doing istidbar, he's turning his back to it. So the hadith of Umar shows the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, again, roughly 1 year before he died, his back is to the qibla. Hadith Jabir shows he's facing the qibla. So both of these actions remove the hadith from haram to makruh. Khalas. That's the best way to look at it. Because if the nahi, the prohibition is mutlaq, then we have a hadith that takes one out from haram to makruh. We have another hadith that takes the other one from haram to makruh. Therefore facing and turning your back, both are makruh, not haram. Either if you're outside or you're inside. But some of the ulama say if you're inside, you don't even have to worry. It's still makruh or it's permissible. Still, we're going to say makruh, outside or inside. That's the more, you could say, safer or the more best view combining all the evidences. So if you have an apartment or a condo or somewhere where you live, and the washroom is facing the qibla, you don't have to move your toilets. Don't do anything you're not supposed to do. Right? First of all, you don't own the house, so you shouldn't be touching the things. Right? That's another issue. You're only renting. Right? So we're not telling that. We're just saying, if you find other way, it's okay. It's makruh. And then what is the qa'idah we can use? Something's makruh and there's a hajj, there's a need. We have no choice to change it, or I'm in the situation, I'm a renter. Inshallah, we're not sinful, we're not even close to sin because we're doing makruh. But if I have a need or I can't change it at all, if I can't, then just forget about it. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala didn't make it wajib on you to do more than that. So this mas'ala is only for the people who have the ability to change it. Abu Ayyub Ansari says, radiallahu ta'ala anhu, we changed the qibla, the washrooms away from the qibla because they had the power, they owned it. That's showing you that some of the ulama hold it's the nahi, it's tahrimi, it's prohibition, mutlaqan, unrestrictedly. Like Shaykh Al-Albani, I believe correctly, and others, they hold that view. Absolutely prohibited, inside, outside. But as you said, the stronger view is makruh. طيب, moving on now, when it comes to the home now, what else should somebody consider? Someone should also consider when they're building a home or picking one, if there's space to host a guest or not. That's also something which is good. A place for the guest. And what it means then, if you can have a room for the guest or a guest house, like how back home, many houses, most of them, they have room for the guest because we're hospitable. The Muslims, we host people. This is something which is good. Jabir bin Abdullah again reports في صحيح مسلم أن رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم قال فراش لرجل وفراش لامرأته وثالث للضيف ورابع للشيطان. One bedding for the husband, one bedding for the wife, the third one for the guest, and the fourth one for shaitan. Hadith 2084, Hadith Muslim. This hadith teaches us that these beddings or furnishings, things for the people, a husband, a wife, they have beddings, somewhere to sleep. Some hadith say also for the child. The third one is for the guest. And what we learn from that is we're going to see that having bed ready for the guest or something like this is permissible. In fact, it's good. Some of the Salaf, they held that to be good because hosting the guest and having space for them is something recommended. Because that which helps you to do mustahab, recommended deeds is recommended. Hosting the guest is something recommended, highly recommended. So here, Al-Qurtubi Abu al-Abbas in his Sharh Sahih Muslim, Al-Mufhim fi Sharh Sahih Muslim, he says, وَأَمَّا الْفِرَاشُ الضَّيِّف, as for the bedding for the bed, for the guest, then what is indicated here is to specify a bedding for him. إِعْدَادُهُ لَهُ, to prepare for him. لأنه من باب الإكرام إكرامه, it's from the way of benefit or way of honoring him. والقيام بحقه, and to give him his right. And that would also necessitate that he has a place to sleep. For the host or the guest cannot sleep in the bed of the family, the host. So where is he going to sleep? A special bedding, a room for him. If you have a room, it's better, or a bedding, or something like that. In today's time, maybe the couch. Wallahu alam, my son was right. But it's okay, better than nothing. Something for him, because it's not always possible. But it's good to have that prepared, and the Salaf consider it from the best things to do, because they consider a guest, who, as we know, guests have a haqq. Right? For example, he can come to you, visits you, specifically to visit you, and you want to host him, he has the right for hosting. So that's where we get it from. But someone may say, what about the last part? What's this bedding? Right? Shaitan is sleeping in the bed. Here, as we come to the end of the book, Shaykh Al-Khawlaani, Hafidhullah Ta'ala, he brings the issue of the house and how to move the shaitan and the curse or the evil omens coming to the home, and evil things. And one of them is this: unnecessary items in the home that no one uses, not yourself, not your family, just you have extra things, is not befitting, that's not befitting. Some of the ulama say, وَالرَّابِعُ لِلشَّيْطَانِ means, the fourth one is israf, and israf is ascribed to shaitan. But some ulama say this is not correct. You take the hadith ala zahir. Rabi' al-shaitan means shaitan is sleeping on that one. And now he mentions, rahimahullah, in his Sharh Muslim, the chapter, clothing likewise. And we took this before. If your closet, you have a lot of clothing, you're not wearing it, shaitan is going to wear that. Right? It's unnecessary clothing you have, unnecessary shoes. And some of us, we should know it's not good for the Muslim to waste the money, but also if you don't need it, give it. Give it away. Because this will also allow you to benefit people. But if you know now that, and someone may say, how can we take the hadith al-Zahir? We go back to Hadith Muslim. Nabi Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam, what did he tell us when you come to your house? What are you supposed to say? When you enter your house, Bismillah, Assalamu alaikum. Who's coming in with you if you don't say Bismillah? The shayateen. Then what do they say? If you didn't say Bismillah, what are they going to do? They're going to have a place to sleep, and then when you eat no Bismillah, something to eat. So where are they going to sleep? The furash, you left there. You left one for them too, right? So some of the people, look at the kuffar. It's no wonder they complain. There's someone in the house. Wallahi, billah alaikum, brothers. There are the kuffar, their houses are full of shayateen, or jinn. And I know because some of them, they came reverse, they admitted this. They always hear noises downstairs. And we explained to them, because you don't say, when you were not Muslim, you didn't say Bismillah. When you eat your food, walk to your house, so he's living there, eating there, he's crashing your house. He lives in your house with you. And you didn't know how to get him out, but Islam brings that. This is the beauty of our deen, brothers. We have to understand. Some Muslims, even they complain. We'll tell them, look how you enter your house. Where's the Bismillah? Where's the Assalamu alaikum? Where's the Qira'at al-Quran? We'll come to later. If that's not there, someone else will be there. Because when the shayateen leave, the malaika also, they come in. So this will teach us later that if you have extra and you don't use at all, better to get it away. But someone may say, what's the dabit? What's the rule here? We're going to go now, Sharh Sahih Muslim, Shaykh Ibn Uthaymeen, rahimahullah, mentions a beautiful benefit. So in the Sharh Sahih Muslim, Kitab al-Libas, tape number 2, side B, Shaykh Ibn Uthaymeen, rahimahullah, talking about this hadith, he raised a mas'ala, an issue about this hadith. What does the hadith mean? So he mentioned it means that which is used for your family, yourself, khasa, specifically, then this is not counted as shaitan using. It's for you and your family. But then he said, what about cups, lights, and things you use here and there? And you have a zina, some beautification, things you use in your house. You use it time to time, but you don't use it all the time. Can we say this is also for shaitan? And he says, what's apparent is no. And the reason we're saying this is because in most of our houses we have extra stuff. Look in your kitchen, what are those plates for? The day of Eid, right? Is that for shaitan? No. You still use it, right? So here he says those extra things we can't say is haram, because Nabi sallallahu alaihi wasallam was speaking to the Sahaba at his time. Many of them, they didn't have that extra money. It wasn't able for them to afford those. So he came them to focus on what they needed. But he said, as for people today who are wealthier, if you're poor, he says, we take this hadith for you. Stick to what you need, and what you don't need, leave it. But if someone has more, then we can't say to them, you can't have more. And then he brings a nice benefit hadith. It's actually at the beginning of a hadith. في البخاري, hadith number 365. Umar radiyallahu ta'ala anhu, he said, the Shaykh uses a principle. إِذَا وَسَّعَ اللَّهُ فَأَوْسِعُوا. If Allah made things spacious for you, make things spacious for yourself. إِذَا وَسَّعَ اللَّهُ فَأَوْسِعُوا. It's a qa'idah, it's a principle. It means, the Shaykh says, we can't tell people it's haram. Allah gave you a lot of money, you can have a lot of stuff in your house extra, because you're wealthy. But if Allah gave you less, stick to what's less. And the reason why the Shaykh says it is because it's hard to tell the people something's haram which Allah gave them ability to use. We go back to hadith. If Allah blessed you with wealth, يُحِبُّ أَنْ يَرَى أَثَرَتْ نِعْمَتِهِ عَلَيْكَ. How can it be then I can't have a little bit extra things in my home? Because I maybe need it. Maybe I have more gatherings than you. Maybe I have more guests than you. I have more cars, I need more garages. It makes sense. But this hadith qa'idah can explain the question someone asked. Can I have a house with a swimming pool? Some of us, we don't want to ruin anyone's dreams. But how can we answer that question? I just told you, رابع الشيطان والجواب, who is going to answer that? Some might tell you, it's haram, it's raf. أعوذ بالله عليك. أعوذ بالله, what are you doing? And some people, they do this. People are dying across the world, you can't have that. Is this correct? How we tell people? People are dying, you give sadaqah, but I can't have this? إذا وسع الله فوسعه. Allah gave me, I can have. The Sahaba, they're the best example. They didn't only have just one cup in the house. That's it. Ibn Umar one day came to his house, he saw a golden plate, a golden bowl, sorry. And the man was looking at it, he got angry. He said, why are you looking at that? You're not supposed to look at people's houses when you come in, you're not supposed to look around. That's bad adab. So he was looking around, he got angry. He said, don't look there, you're not supposed to. But he had it. Sahaba, wealthy brothers, many of them, Ibn Umar, Uthman, Ibn Abbas, we forget. And they had. If someone can say that they haram, abadan. But the reason why they had it is different. They have different reasons. So therefore the ulama say you can't make haram Allah has. Someone has a backyard, he has a pool, that's his business. If he can afford it, it's his business. But if Allah made him wealthy, وَسَعَ اللَّهُ فَأَوْسِعُوا. Later we'll talk about some of the houses of Sahaba and Salaf, so we can see the examples. But the reason why we're saying this, what's the dabit for israf? This is where the people get confused. What's the principle? Ibn Abidin Hanafi, he writes, الإسراف صرف الشيء فيما ينبغي زائدا على ما ينبغي. That's his dabit. Al-israfu saraf al-shay. Israf is to spend towards something or turn towards something. فيما ينبغي, that which is necessary. زائدا على ما ينبغي, over and above that which is necessary. So example, I have to build a house. That's a haja. Then I built a house, I don't need that much space. Maybe there's only a few people in my house, I have 15 rooms. Why so many rooms you have? Because I did it. So this is زائدا عما ينبغي يعني زائد الحاجة. That's إسراف. Shaykh Islam ibn Taymiyyah, he says the same بمفلح من آداب الشرعية quotes Shaykh Taqi Uddin ibn Taymiyyah رحمه الله, he said الإسراف في المباحات هو مجاوزة الحد. الإسراف في المباحات, to be extravagant in the permissible matters, هو مجاوزة الحد, to go up and beyond the necessary boundaries that's necessary, what you need. وهو من عدوان المحرم, it's a prohibited prohibition or a transgression. So this is a ضابط. What you need, you go up and beyond it. But then someone might say, how do I know what I need and what you need? اللجنة الدائمة in their fatwa, they said that this goes back to the people. People are different. يعني يتفاوت ذلك بتفاوت الطبقات الناس وأحوالهم ومراكزهم, like this, right? People's levels, your money, your wealth, your status. So maybe I have a lot of people in my house, so I have more homes, more rooms. Maybe you have less people, you have less. Maybe I have, for example, more cups because I have more invitations. You have less, so you have less, like this. So same thing, if somebody has a walima, a banquet, and you want to know if it's israf, okay, how many people are coming? How much food you need for those people, and extra for just in case the people who are not invited, and some extra for people if they want it, who are poor. That's it. But the extra after that, that's israf. The extra orders you put there to show people, mashallah. No, that one you don't. Save your money. That will be israf. So this is why the ulama, they put this, because it will change based on the situation. Beautiful. This is a good principle we can use. Because accusation, israf, anyone can make it. This guy's a musrif. What is the proof? Even today you go online, you see on social media, right? What is this israf? How can it be israf? Just you're looking at it from your life, not mine. And that's what the ulama mentions to remind us again, it has to go back to people. So this is a good principle to memorize or to learn. And therefore, if somebody has extra things in their home or rooms or things, it won't be israf if there's a hajah. That leads then to the next thing. When someone finishes building the home or choosing it, what are some of the adab or ahkam related to a new home? So now, let's say you have a new home. Shaikh al-Khawlaani, he talks about this in the book, page 66 downwards. If you go to the PDF, you'll see it. He talks about the things in the home, the new home. What are some of the things you're allowed to do, you can't do? And what is mentioned here is that when somebody has a new home or finished building a new home or rented or moved into a new home, there are certain things he can or she can do and some things they can and cannot do. So from those things we'll start with things you shouldn't do and the things that you can do. The first of them, slaughtering an animal. And here we're going to explain, it's not just the slaughtering, it's slaughtering with the wrong intention. So here, some people, when they build a new home, especially back home, they slaughter an animal to protect themselves from the sharr jinn, from the evil of the jinn. Wal-ayn, an evil eye. فَلَا يَجُوز, this is not allowed. Because we know in Islam, if someone wants to protect their house, this is not how you protect it. It's not how you protect it. And to remind ourselves, before we look at this, the fatwa here of Shaykh bin Baz, rahimahullah, anytime someone wants to know something's a bid'ah or not, you just have to remember to specify something for a specific time, place, or howness, kayfiyah, or etc. These are the signs of bid'ah. Shaykh Bakr Abu Zayd rahimahullah, he said, ومن البدع, from the innovations, التخصيص بلا دليل, to specify without proof. For example, بقراءة الآية أو الصورة في زمان أو مكان أو حاجة من حاجات وهكذا قصد التخصيص بلا دليل. So every time you make تخصيص or تحديد بلا دليل, this is a sign of bid'ah. تخصيص means specifying something, a time and place, and تحديد, specifying a particular way. For example, a new house, you have to do a slaughter for the jinn. First of all, you shouldn't be slaughtering for this. You're supposed to be seeking refuge in Allah. It's not allowed. This is from the shirk. So Shaykh bin Baz rahimahullah, he said, then slaughtering to protect yourself from the jinn or the evil eye, and like this, if someone slaughters, then what is intended by the slaughter? If somebody is slaughtering, he says, in the name of so and so, right, jinn or whoever, for protection, it's a bid'ah. If it's doing it for so and so, or to slaughter it for this particular occasion for the owner of the house, then this is a bid'ah, because you're not doing it for the jinn, you're just slaughtering for the happiness of that person. For example, some people might slaughter an animal for Allah's sake, but for the protection of the new homeowner. No, you can't do that. That's not how you protect the person's house for him. He says, as for slaughtering for the jinn, فهو الشرك أكبر لأنه عبادة لغير الله. As we studied, this is not allowed. If you're slaughtering it for the jinn, right? وَلَعَنَ اللَّهُ مَنْ ذَبَحَ لِغَيْرِ اللَّهِ. You're slaughtering for the jinn, for protection. So, if that's not allowed, the next one is, how about reading Quran or specific ayat when you buy the house or you move in? And some, I think the Desi culture, Quran al-Khawlaani, I think they call it, reciting the Quran or parts of the Quran, or by paying some people to come there, they all read one juz, and that's it, the whole Quran's read. This is not also reported, right? Sahaba said they moved to many houses, Nabi Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam, they never did that. So that will be also a bid'ah. Why? Takhsis, you're specifying a time, in this case, the time buying a new house for a specific action. As we'll see, if you want to read Surah Baqarah inside your house yourself, that's different, as we'll come to. But I'm talking about you hire some people, they all read one part of the Quran, khalas, the Quran is read in the house, now it's blessed. But the problem with this is that it doesn't even work, because if you read the Quran like this, and then after that you don't read the Quran. So in the house, you read the Quran one time, the first time is full coverage, right? Inshallah, for the rest of your life, the Quran, you don't even read the Quran in the house. Nabi Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam, did he tell us to do that, or he tells us to do things inside the house? We have to teach the people what you do in the house is more important than what you did in the beginning only, what you do constantly. For example, praying salah in the house has a great impact. Reading the Quran by yourself, Surah Baqarah in the house has an impact, but not just hiring people to do it. So the hadith, لا تجعلوا بيوتكم مقابر. Don't make your houses قبور, graves and graveyards. And then the Prophet told us what to do. And we're going to come to this hadith about Baqarah. But the beginning part says that you're praying salah in there, you yourself reading Quran there and doing good deeds. So that's also not legislated. The third one is legislated, and it goes, the third one we're going to mention is not legislated, going to fortune tellers, right, and soothsayers. And this goes without saying, right? This is absolutely impermissible. So those who are arrafi, munajjimin, these kind of people, fortune tellers, soothsayers, this is absolutely haram. And Nabi Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam told us that going to such people and accepting what they're saying, salah will not be accepted for 40 days. If you believe in what they said and you believe that they have the capacity to know the unseen, etc., this is kufr, as we studied before. But the thing we should pay attention to, why do people do this? Out of fear that if I build this new house, who's going to hit the evil eye, and I need to know what... No, this is un-Islamic, all of that. And Nabi Sallallahu told the Sahabi, Muawiyah bin al-Hakim al-Sulami, when he became Muslim, he told me, Ya Rasulullah, some of us will go to fortune tellers. He says, فَلَا تَأْتُوا الْكُهَانِ, don't go to them. Then he says, some of us, we have superstitions. He says, that's something, ذَاكَ الشَّيْء يَجِدُهُ أَحَدُكُمْ فِي نَفْسِهِ فَلَا يَسُدَّنَّكُمْ. And don't let it stop you. That's something you find in your chest. It has no benefit. So likewise, superstitions. Some people, when they have houses, have to do certain things. This is not allowed. How about things that are permissible? What can we do permissible? So one of them is having a get-together, or eating together, or having a walima, like a banquet, to celebrate this occasion. This is haram or halal? This is halal. There's nothing wrong with that. Because this doesn't go back to what is called an Eid. This is not Eid. This is from the times you build a house. You don't build a house every year, right? It's just from the afrah. It's a munasaba, it's a kind of occasion which is happy and happens. So that's permissible. And the fuqaha, they call it wakira. If you go to the books of fiqh, it's called wakira. Okay, and it's a Mawsu'a Fiqhiyya Kuwaitiyya, volume 45. Page 115, they have the mas'ala of wakira. Al-wakira means طعام يتخذه الرجل عند فراغه من بنيانه. يعني when he finishes building his house, فيدعو الناس إليه, and he calls people towards it. So this is called al-wakira. فقهاء جمهور علماء حنفية وشافعية and the Hanabila, they say it's mustahab. If someone invites you to such a gathering, that you go. Someone invites you, you come, you accept it, as long as there's nothing makruh there. And the purpose behind it is to celebrate a good occurrence. Someone doesn't move into the house often, doesn't buy a house and halal way often, something good to celebrate, as long as there's nothing haram there. And this is not a Eid, this is from the happy occasions that come suddenly, good cause. Therefore, you can have an enjoyment because the thing you're celebrating is halal, so you can do it. What is not allowed is when it recurs year after year at the same time. This is what's called Eid. Eid means something adi ya'ud. It keeps coming again and again and again. That year, the day you buy your house, every year you have a party. This is not allowed. This is Eid now. Shaykh Salih Fawzan Hafidhullah Ta'ala was asked this question, that is having a banquet, a walima for a new house considered innovation? And he says permissible. Establish a banquet for moving to a new house, permissible. It's not sunnah or haram, it's just mubah. And this is because the sabab, which is to be happy at this moment, is mubah, therefore it's permissible to do it. And the occurrence came suddenly, it's not something which you are doing again and again. So that is okay. And most of us, we do it anyways. You invite your friends and family. And so it's better if we say permissible anyways. You're already going. Most of us have already did that or are doing it. And we can't tell people this is haram because this is what reason. It's like somebody gets a new job. Someone bought a new car. You can't celebrate that. We have to differentiate about this. Bab al-furuq fi fiqh is where most people fall into the masail, get into issues. The lay people, the problem they always join things together. Furuq al-fiqh means there are things that look like they're the same, but they're not the same. An Eid and a happy occasion, afrah or ihtifal and afrah, it's not an Eid. Therefore it's permissible, and Eid is bid'ah. But if you say all of them at once, this is what happens. For example, if your older brother or sister invite you, you're going to say, I can't come. When they tell you it's a birthday, you don't go. But this one, you go. And that's the balance. Because you see, there's a principle. This is why I don't go, that one I go. Then you can say, oh, he has some kind of knowledge. But also, it can show you that Islam has justice. That's okay. What else is permissible? Let's talk about some other benefits here. Shaykh Ibn Uthaymeen, they asked him, rahimahullah, about dua. Is there any dua for moving into a new house? Generally, there is no special dua, but there's a dua when you move into a place or you rest in a place. You're resting somewhere. And this is general. So Shaykh Ibn Uthaymeen, rahimahullah, they asked him this question. And they asked him, Shaykh, if somebody is moving or slaughtering, first of all, meat for a new house, and he said that's not allowed. It can be major shirk, depends on the intention. But then he said it's necessary for a person, if he settles in a new place, that he says the dua that's supported. And so what's the dua he's talking about? Is the hadith in Muslim hadith Khawla bint Hakim radiyallahu ta'ala anha. Nabi sallallahu alayhi wa sallam said, إِذَا نَزَلَ أَحَدُكُمْ مَنْزِلًا. Pay attention. إِذَا نَزَلَ أَحَدُكُمْ مَنْزِلًا. If any one of you moves in or rests in a place, manzil is home, could be place, could be anywhere. As we'll see in a second. فَلْيَقُلْ, let him say, أعوذ بكلمات الله التامات من شر ما خلق. Let him say that dua. أعوذ بكلمات الله, I seek refuge in the perfect words of Allah from the evil that He's created. فإنه لا يضره شيء حتى يرتحل منه. Nothing will harm him until he leaves that place. Hadith Muslim 2708. Hadith clearly sahih. It's a beautiful hadith. And connected to this, we can see that this is how Rasul sallallahu alaihi wasallam showed us to protect ourselves from the homes, from the dangerous places when we move to our homes or we're traveling. So the hadith has many benefits. Many benefits. And one of them, as we'll see, is that if you travel somewhere, random place, and it happens to you, that you end up in somewhere and there's danger, then this hadith, you read it, it will protect you. There's also qissa behind the hadith Sa'ad also. But let's talk about the hadith. How does the hadith work here? Shaykh Ibn Uthaymeen, he mentioned this hadith here and he uses proof. So someone will say, does it work in all reasons? Well, it says, نَزَلَ مَنْزِلًا. Whoever ends up or stays in a home. So here Shaykh Ibn Uthaymeen says then, for whoever settles in a place and stays there, he says that nothing will harm him. And he used it in the answer to a new house. So yes, you could say that because you're moving there, so you can say it. Because the hadith is am. The hadith, the wording is general. And someone will say, how do we know that? How do we know that? Well, we're going to see because إِذَا نَزَلَ مَنْزِلًا. So إِذَا نَزَلَ, any one of you moves in. So here, the word منزلا نكرة في سياق الشرط يفيد العموم. إذا نزل منزلا. منزلا نكرة, unrestricted. في سياق, what context? شرط, إذا, خلاص, generality. Shaykh Uthaymeen, one fatwa, he says, you go to the hotel on the way to Umrah. What do you say? You're checking in the Hilton. You think you're safe, right? Some of us do, astaghfirullah, right? Read this dua, you don't know who's in there, right? Sometimes that's what happens. Some people just That's why people travel, this is what happens. They travel someplace, you don't know where you are. You're a layover, read this, you're going to sleep in the airport, read dua, Allah knows. Could be some criminals there in the airport, Allah Alam, right? You don't know. So read this dua. Menzilan, anywhere you stay over, anywhere, because it's general, therefore you take it. So Shaykh Mateen, one fatwa, he says hotel, here, new house, anywhere you're going to rest overnight. Camping, that one you definitely need to read it, right? Some of us, we know from experience. They didn't read dua, something went wrong. Right? So this is what you need. You need this. It's practical stuff, brothers. Islam is practical. Practical. You have to learn those du'as. You can't say, I didn't know. Get your phone out, read it. But why is it important? Because inshallah nothing will harm you. What is the harm here? It could be anything. One of the words in the hadith is talking about wild animals, insects. And I believe the qissa of Sa'ad in relation to this, right? That one of his, I think it's one of his maids or servants, she had read this dua and they were somewhere and they got bitten by a poisonous bug or scorpion, whatever, and they didn't feel any pain because they read the dua. That's a practical example from Sahaba and Salaf. This shows you practical example because you never know, right? Could be anything there. Same thing, it could be anyone. Even some people have practical stories about that. So it's general. Also, it teaches a benefit for Aqidah that the speech of Allah is, the Quran and the speech of Allah is, right? The Quran is the speech of Allah غير مخلوق because you're seeking refuge in it. So that's one dua you can make because it's general. Number 2, reading Surah Baqarah. So we'll finish with these few points. Reading Surah Baqarah, this is also in general. Shaykh Mu'taim was asked in his Sharh Iqtida Sirat al-Mustaqim of the Shaykh Ibn Taymiyyah, the Sharh of the Kitab, tape number 23, side A. They asked the Shaykh, is it sunnah to recite Surah Baqarah in a new house? And he said, what's apparent is that there's no harm in that, especially if the satanic whispers waswasa increase and somebody feels the presence of the shayateen in the home. There's no harm. However, we can't say it is a sunnah because Nabi Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam didn't specify it that time. So see the difference of the Shaykh's answer? Showing fiqh, he didn't say, he said, inshallah, there's no harm. If there's a hajj or need or sabab, you feel like something's there. And generally, you should read Surah Baqarah in your houses. But he's talking about new house. So it's something different between new house and house, or where you live. When you live there, you should read Baqarah. But now I'm saying I got a new house. Should I sit down that first night in Surah Baqarah or can I sleep? So here he's saying generally you can because the hadith in the shaytana ينفر من البيت الذي تقرأ فيه سورة بقرة. Hadith Muslim. The shaitan runs from the home that Surah Baqarah is read in it. So he says there's no harm in it, especially if mistakes caused by devils increases or he feels that there's a need for it. Otherwise, he just reads it generally in his house. Also, 7 al-Fatwa, Shaykh Abdul Muhsin al-Abbad, Hafidhullah Ta'ala, he said the same thing, that it's not sunnah, but there's no harm just to the general hadith. Another question, Shaykh Abdul Muhsin al-Abbad, Hafidhullah Ta'ala, was asked, can a group of people read the Baqarah together, right, at the home? For example, he says, is it necessary for one person to recite all the Baqarah, or can I read half, my wife reads half, or I read half, my daughter reads half? Does this count? He says, what's desired, what's intended by the hadith will be met if someone does that. If a group of people do it, then the maqsood is reached, which is that is read. However, one person reading and not dividing the surah between them, no doubt this is more deserving and better. Otherwise, if someone reads some parts, someone else reads some parts, then inshallah the intent is achieved. For Surah Baqarah is recited from beginning until the end. However, one reciter is more deserving than dividing it. And where does he get that from, the Shaykh? Because of the hadith, right? ينفر من البيت الذي تقرأ فيه. تقرأ means it was read. How was it read? It's general, unrestricted. If I already read some part, we all read it, read. So inshallah that gives us hope because maybe you're not going to read all of it. You read one juz. Maybe that can work. Better than, right? But some people they play the tape. How about this one? And some people go to work, Surah Baqarah, they come back, mashallah, they finish Baqarah, Al Imran. Does this count? Some ulama say no, it's better not to do that. But this doesn't go with the recitation. This goes with some recording. Even though it's good to listen to Quran in your homes, but also another problem with that is the Quran is not to be played, no one's listening. The Quran فَاسْتَمِعُوا لَهُ. No one's listening to this house. The Quran in the house. This is not good. So some people, they just leave it playing. This is not respectful. You put the Quran off, no one is listening. This is the best. We'll finish with this much for today. Next week, inshallah ta'ala, we start from when inside the home. The general rules now and adab, entering the home, and the things the person does inside his home. And we'll also get towards, as we continue the lessons, we're going to get to some of the benefits, how Rasul sallallahu alaihi wasallam was in his home, Sahaba, how were they in the home, Salaf and the A'imma, the Mashaykh, how was their homes. So we'll get to all of that, cleaning the home, furniture, all of this. Inshallah, anyone have a quick question? Otherwise, I think time is already for Salah. Yes? Who would need a pool? So somebody to swim for their health? It's not a health to swim to get healthy. How about children entertainment? Hajj is not like darura. So Hajj just means something you needed. For example, I need to eat, Hajj. Clothing, Hajj. Hajj is a lesser degree in darura. Darura means life or death. Hajj means general need or specific need. So for example, swimming is very healthy. It's also good, it's a way of halal entertainment. So for example, at your house, someone we're going to come to later, is a TV necessary or a computer or a tablet? No. ليس ضرورة. So why do we have it? Who can answer that? Hajj. We're going to say it's haram. Car even, someone could say it's not Hajj. It is Hajj, but someone could say you could just walk and take the bus. No. We're going to see later. The Hajj has a specific meaning. So the deen is divided into three. Darura, daruriyat, hajiyat, and tahsiniyat. Daruriyat means necessities, hajiyat are like the needs, and then the tahsiniyat are luxuries. So that's why we're going to see sometimes something could be a need, something could be a luxury. Someone could argue maybe a pool is a luxury, but someone could say it's actually a need. Depends on what the person has, right? That's why we said it goes back to the person. Maybe you have, mashallah, no need for a pool, but you have it just for there. It could be for you a luxury. But even then, to say it's haram, it cannot be, because we need a clear proof, right? So that's why we go back to asl ibaha. So let's say someone said this is not a need. It's just a luxury. I can afford it. It's not israf. That's the benefit we took. If it's not israf, it's not haram. Allahu alam. Yes. Yes. That's better not to do. People should read the Quran themselves. I know some people, they don't know how to read. They call someone. Better they read themselves. Because number one, it's cheaper, but also the benefit comes from you. You get the hasanat. I know sometimes, some people, they don't know. Maybe someone can help you, but it's better you do yourself. This is the better. The ulama say, read yourself. Yes. Last one, inshallah. That's a good masala. So this one, the hadith is firash al-rajul, the bed for the husband, firash al-zawj, for the wife. Here the fuqaha explain, now we go to Sharh Muslim, he said it means when there's a need, your wife is sick, you're sick, you can't go in the same bed, right? Not some people say sunnah to have two beds. No. The ulama said no one understood that. Nabi sallallahu alaihi wasallam used to sleep with his wives in the same bed. That's the sunnah. But let's say you're sick, she's sick, or for example, you have to go somewhere early and you're going to wake up, you want, so those needs, that's the meaning. And that's what the ulama, no one understood it. They said, no, we explained it to others that that's not for sunnah, everybody has their own bed. If that's happening, something else going wrong, right? Barakallahu feekum, subhanahu wa bihamdihi.